Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Aaron Adams, and with me here today, I have a couple of guests. We're going to be talking about real estate investing. We're going to be talking about using your IRA and 401k to invest in real estate. We're going to walk you through how to do that. We have a really great offer for you today. We have a $99 offer where we have a whole bunch of goodies for you so that you can get going. And as part of that $99, we're even including the setup for your own self-directed IRA. So lots to cover today. You can see my bios there on the screen. What was that TV show where they were all on the screen above and below each other?
What,
Eight,
gee,
it wasn't Eight is Enough, was it? No.
uh,
Uh,
no, I know the one you're talking about.
Fred,
It's yeah,
Fred,
Brady Bunch. Come on,
Brady
man.
Bunch. There you go, Brady Bunch.
yeah, the Brady. Oh, yeah, because we're the Brady Bunch at my house. So Brady Bunch. What was Eight is Enough? Why is that in my head? Was that another 1970s family show?
Oh yeah, man. That was another blended family show.
Okay. So Dennis Blitz from the IRA Club. Our
Hello.
featured guest speaker today is right above me. Jan is right below me. My sister, aka Fred Dumar. You're Jan today. Um, and what we'd like to do, those of you that received an email from us, those of you that have been confirmed into the training today, Fred has run point on that, and he's our non-techie tech person by default. But for 25 years, you can see behind him on the wall, he's Colonel Fred, U.S. Army Special Forces, and he retired and started having kids. So, 2 months ago, he had twins, right?
Yeah, we added twins. So
And
yeah,
then 15
it's
months before
no sleep
that,
at our house.
yeah, 15 months before that, he added his son. So he waited 25 years to start his family, and now he's like, he's busier than he's ever been. He's using all of his special forces techniques to sleep
It's true.
deprivation, torture. He sent me a video at 6:30 this morning, which I only happened to be awake. My alarm doesn't set till 7, and he had all three of the kids this morning. You were running full interference. What time did you get up, Fred?
It was a 5:30. The girls were up, and then yeah, 5:45 the boys. So yeah, he was doing laps around the kitchen while they were rolling around the living room. It was a good time this morning.
Now, if you can see on the slide here, I'll zoom in a little bit, but we have a Brady Bunch in our house. I have the two bookend boys, and then my wife, Megan, she's got three girls and a boy, so we're a full house. We've been 5-year anniversary this weekend, Dennis.
Wow.
Yep. They say for 5 years, you're supposed to give them something made of wood, so I
Is
liked
it-
that. That was nice. That's economical. So, we're guessing that you're joining us here today because either you're A, interested in investing in real estate, B, would like to learn how you could use your IRA and 401k to invest with, or both. And so we're going to cover those as well. We're going to talk about COVID. I'm going to explain to you some of the opportunities that are out there. We've never been busier. We were just talking before we started today how COVID has been huge for our business, just like when the markets all crashed in 2008, how it propelled my business forward at that point. So we're going to talk about the current real estate landscape, what the opportunities are for you as an investor. I was in Indianapolis over the weekend with 50 investors live, and then we had another 50 or so in our live stream. And they were really intrigued by the opportunities that are out there. Mobile home has never been more hot. Modular homes, commercial real estate. There's some just phenomenal opportunities in commercial. Single family home. We're gonna break down for you what those opportunities are, because if you don't know why you want to invest, well then it doesn't make sense to even tap into that 401k money and IRA money. Let me break down a little bit our respective expertise so we can feed that to you, and you can know who it is that you're hearing from today. Let me just hop over to the web browser so you can see the website for the IRA Club. And on my screen is the website for the IRA Club. Dennis, why is it called the IRA Club, and how long have you guys been around?
Well, that's not a very interesting story, but I'll tell it. The IRA Club started as a club, and there were people who had self-directed IRAs here in Chicago. and was kind of groping. We were excited about the idea of self-directing, and then there was no one to talk with. So I formed a club and found people who also had self-directed IRAs. And we would get together once a month and talk about what each of us was investing in, what we were finding, what questions we had, and started sharing opportunities. And so it started as a club. Eventually, people started asking us about, starting their own account. So I started a little business, and the name IRA Club just stuck, and we still call it IRA Club today. But you know what I want to talk about for a second is the fact that now it's more important than ever to use your IRA as an investment tool. And it's a no-brainer today. The best salesperson we have ever had working for us is Biden. The guy sells a lot of IRAs by his own activity. And what I'm referring to is this. When we're talking what the tax proposals are one is a proposal to reduce or eliminate the 1031 exchange, which a lot of real estate investors have used for years to roll forward their tax bill. Another thing that people are talking about is a proposal that Social Security tax of 12.4% will be charged on any individual who earns over $400,000 a year from any source.
Wow.
So imagine, and of course, we all know that they want to take the maximum tax rate back up to 39.6% from the Obama era to 39.6%, lower to $400,000 where that kicks in. And there's even a discussion of getting rid of long-term capital gains if you have a gross income from all sources of over $1 million. So what's going to be happening to the investors? And the investors are right in the bullseye. Successful investors are in the bullseye of these increased taxes. And so if you make an investment with your dollars or my dollars, and we do well, let's say we make $150,000 profit on a transaction. Well, if we do it with our own dollars, we could end up with about $75,000 to $80,000, called $75,000 with state income tax. So make 150, have 39.6% income tax, 3.8% net investment tax, which also went in during the Obama era to pay for the Affordable Care Act. Expect that tax also, by the way, to go up. The 12.4% extra on earnings over $400,000 for Social Security tax, which is being proposed. It's very, very, very fast. You're going to get over 50% of your earnings will go to taxes. So invest with your own dollars, make $150,000. You've done very nicely. You end up with a net of $75,000. But if your IRA, your Roth IRA invests in that same investment, same risk, same amount of money, you do the same work and effort. If your IRA earns $150,000, it keeps the $150,000 and then passes that on to you as the full 150. So it really basically using your IRA doubles your return.
Yeah, it's I had an accountant say to me once, well, I usually advise clients not to invest in real estate using their 401k or their IRA. And I said, why would you do that? And he said, well, because then they lose all the tax benefits. And I thought that was laughable because they lose the need for an accountant is what they lose. And that's why
That's right.
That's why the accountant doesn't like that, because if you own a house inside your IRA, there's no, you're not paying any taxes on the rent. If you sell that house, there's no short-term or long-term capital gains. You don't file a return. I mean, think about it. If you have a 401k right now or an IRA, you don't file a tax return on the growth, or if you sell some of your stock and then reinvest. It's either tax deferred in the case of a traditional 401k or an IRA, or it's tax free if you happen to have a Roth. And I got to tell you, if you don't have a Roth, I got to ask you why, because it's one of the greatest investing tax opportunities the federal government has ever given us, isn't it, Dennis?
No question. It's the best. It's the best a gift that they've ever given to the individual investor. I'm sure if I was General Electric or General Motors or somebody else, there's better deals out there because I've got lobbyists running around Washington for me. But for you and for I, there is no better deal than tax-free in a Roth income. That is just the best it is. And what surprises me is the tremendous number. There's over $11 trillion sitting in IRAs right now. Over 50 million households have at least one IRA. Many of them have more. The tremendous number of people I talk to all day long who I say, where's your IRA right now? And they say, I don't know. I don't remember where I put it. Or how much is in it? I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it in a while. What's it invested in? I don't know. People are not using that very, very valuable opportunity to make a lot of money. And really, if you have an IRA, use it. If you have an old 401k, roll it over and use it. And if you have a traditional, make it into a Roth.
Of the 50 or so investors that joined us in Indianapolis this weekend, there was a segment of them, maybe about 40%, who realized that if your 401k at your current job is being managed, maybe Fidelity, for example, which is one of the big companies that manages 401ks for a lot of companies. If your money's with Fidelity, chances are that money is currently not eligible to be self-directed. Now, we did have one client this weekend who he said, well, but when I got hired at this job, I rolled over $200,000 from a previous employer, and that money was actually eligible for him to separate out and set up self-directed. But, I meet people all the time to say, hey, I was talking to a financial advisor. He said, those self-directed are risky. The whole thing can get disallowed. You could screw it up. What do you have to say to that, Dennis? Because that's a criticism I hear a lot of self-directed IRAs.
And of course, the IRA itself is not risky or not risky because it's the investments that you put into it. And I can tell you that obviously I've been doing this now for 12 years. We've seen thousands and thousands of accounts, tens and tens of thousands of investments. As a practical matter, what really happens with a self-directed IRA is the people who come in and open one of these are the more conservative people because they're making investments that are more reliable. I don't want to call them conservative. I want to call them reliable. They like income-producing real estate. They know there's a check that's going to come in every month. They know real estate tends to appreciate and appreciate and appreciate. It doesn't bounce up and down. If you turn on the news lately, my golly, you hear, GameStop went from, $2 to $200 to $2 to $200, and et cetera. You drive past that house that I've invested in, and it was worth, $220,000, last week. It's probably worth $220,000 plus a few bucks this week. It didn't suddenly turn into a $100,000 house.
Yeah. It brings up, you actually bring up a very important point, and I can't emphasize enough how important using a trustee is if you decide to self-direct your money. Because, look, I have on the screen from IRA Club's website, common self-directed investments, owning property. And when I say owning property inside your IRA literally goes on the deed as the owner. Your 401k literally will go on the deed. And a lot of people are like, I didn't know I can do that. Well, if you're at Fidelity, you can't do that because that brings up trustees. Fidelity is a trustee. Fidelity is willing to provide oversight for your 401k or your IRA, but they pretty much just want you to invest it in the market. IRA Club is a trustee. They have the FDIC insured account. They have tens of millions of dollars rolling through those accounts. I have retirement money, IRA money. At IRA Club. Fred has IRA money, and we're doing investments. But as a trustee, the IRA Club is happy to provide trustee services and oversight, compliance oversight, and they review every transaction. So if I want to, for example, it says there on the screen, make a loan for my IRA. If I want to make a loan, they review the loan paperwork. They make sure that it's compliant. If I want to invest in a mobile home, or an alternative investment, they review that transaction. And that refutes the criticism that a lot of people will say, hey man, I talked to my financial advisor, they said those self-directed IRAs are risky. And like Dennis says, it's the investor who's risky, and the investments. And anytime you see a scenario where people don't have a trustee who's reviewing the transactions and making sure that they're compliant. I don't do a transaction without it being reviewed by someone at the IRA club, and so that protects me from screwing it up. Yes, you could absolutely screw up the transaction, or you could screw up on the investment. And as an investor, I only want to know that I'm screwing up the investment, not the transaction, right?
You're right.
I'm not buying GameStop at 200 that I'm selling it at 200. And so the use of a trustee is what protects you, and that kind of blocks the criticism, because the reality is when you look at, Dennis, there's what, $27 trillion sitting in U.S. retirement accounts?
Yeah, exactly. It's right in there, 25, 27 trillion, right?
And Fidelity is a private company that we don't even know how much they make. They manage almost a third of U.S. retirement accounts. I mean, think
Exactly
about
right. About a third.
Yeah, is that what it is? A third?
It's a little over 8 trillion of the, and there's 25 trillion. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was reading a study recently that said, well, how much money does Fidelity make for their clients? And they average about 3 to 4% a year growth over a 15, 20-year period. But then their expenses are 2-3%. So many investors are only making 1-3% by leaving their money at Fidelity. So if they don't put money in, if their boss doesn't match it, their account's not getting any bigger. And maybe you've experienced that. Maybe you've said, gosh, I'm not getting any more wealthy from the investment. Only on the contributions, the money that I put in, does my account go up. That's a reason where we see a lot of investors who are interested in real estate, because they're like, if I'm only making 2 or 3% at Fidelity with my money in the market, imagine if I could buy a rental property, make 6 or 7% from the rents, and then make 5, 6, 7, 10% from the appreciation. Now you're making a double-digit growth, and that's something to really get excited about. And so Dennis and I together, Dennis on the trustee, self-directed side, and then I'm on the real estate side. I'm actually buying properties, selling them to investors, managing them for them. Together, we have over 900 common clients where they've set up an account over the past, what now, going on 9 years, Dennis?
Yeah, and we're getting up closer to 1,000 now.
Yeah.
We're almost over 1,000. Yeah.
Where they said, you're right, I want to diversify into real estate. I want to diversify into some alternative investments. I don't want to have 100% of my account in the market exposed, because remember, in 2008, many investors lost 40, 50, 60% of the money that was in their 401k when the market crashed the last time. Now, we've been lucky. We're now in our 13th year since the last crash. That's unprecedented. That's never happened in the United States. We've never gone this long without a huge correction. I mean, COVID was a speed bump last March when markets kind of went into free fall. And you have to ask yourself if that gave you some heartburn, if that made you nervous about, gosh, do I have too much of my money sitting in the market? Let me show you a slide here real quick that highlights how the wealthiest Americans divide up their money. And you can see here that it's actually, let me switch over to the PowerPoint slide here. There we go. I was still on the web browser. So you can see on this slide here that this kind of follows loosely what's called the Yale model of diversification. Yale with their endowment, the way that they've diversified their money. This is not just the top 1% of Americans; it's the top 1/10 of 1%. So we're talking about people that are worth $40 million or more, because to be top 1%, you need a net worth in the U.S. about $4 or $5 million. And so what you see is about a third of their money is in real estate. About 10% of their money is in cash or cash equivalents like gold. About a third of their money is in, 30% is in the market. And then about 30% of their money gets invested in what's called private equity, or in a business itself, their business or another business investment. It's referred to as the 30-30-30-10 allocation. And maybe you've never even thought about what your allocation is. You're like, oh, I don't know, I'd have to look at it. And especially, what's your allocation if you take your primary residence out? Because you may count it as an asset when you're applying for a loan, but it's not truly an asset because it doesn't pay you. And so we have investors who are saying, who the last time the markets crashed in 2008, they were 80%, 90%, 100% in the market. They had very little invested in real estate outside of their home and a vacation home. They didn't even know what private equity was, or they didn't know that they can invest in a business. And so their personal net worth and their retirement money are not diversified, which means they're completely exposed. So when Dennis and I look back at the coming up on 1,000 clients, why are they working with IRA Club? Why do they roll over 100,000, 200,000 of their 401k and then buy property from me? It's because they realize that they're probably a little bit more exposed than they would like to be. What do you have to say about that, Dennis? Anything to add?
100%. And I can't overemphasize that people who get their portfolio out of balance, and people don't even realize they have a portfolio. I mean, you hit it on the head. You talk to people and say, "What's your allocation?" And people say, "I'm not sure." I know that because I say, "Where's your IRA?" And they say, "I'm not sure." So kind of think about how you have your money balanced. And we all know that balance is going to be a very, very important key. If you are more than half into the stock market, if you're more than half just sitting in cash, boy, we see people with money sitting in cash all the time.
Yeah.
You want to get something in there that's a hard asset, because those hard assets are the most reliable assets. And reliable, I'm not looking to shoot the moon. I'm looking to get reliable and have that reliable return. So that rental property is a very attractive, type of investment for me.
I want to talk for a minute about the real estate opportunity and break down for you kind of what our company does. I own Alpine Property Management, Alpine Capital Solutions. So we're currently in 5 states. We're in the markets. We're in Southeast Idaho, Dallas, Texas, Kansas City, Missouri, Indianapolis, Indiana, Charlotte, North Carolina. And we're in those 5 markets. In each of those markets, I have a management company, I have a construction company, I have a brokerage. We're buying and selling properties. And not only do we buy properties, but we buy the properties, we fix them up, we rent them out, and we sell them to investors. So if you're an investor that's interested in investing in real estate passively, meaning you don't want to deal with the headaches of management, we're happy to not only sell you a deal, but then manage it for you afterwards. That's what our company's been doing for a long time. So if you go over to the web, let me switch over to back over to the browser. If you go to alpinecapitalsolutions.com, you can see our website that we've used for many years. We've been in business for a long time. Our largest and most established operation is in Indianapolis. We sell turnkey properties, meaning it's fixed up, it's rented out, it's ready to go. You get rent the very next month. And we do that out of those markets. So you can see the markets that we're in, some examples of properties. You can get a feel for our team, who we are, what we're about. We've been doing this for a very long time, and we've never been busier. In fact, we're so busy, we don't put our properties on a website to sell. We don't put them on MLS and list them. The investors who we've been working with for a long time take most of the deals that we have. And so that's how Dennis and I got to know each other. That's how we've worked together, because over the years, we've had a lot of people that want investments and they want to buy from us. And then Dennis and his team show them how they can buy it in the 401k, buy it in the IRA. And then every month, my management company sends the rent to that trust account in Chicago at the IRA Club. And that's the growth that they make. When they want to sell it, then we help list the property and sell it, and the proceeds get sent to the trust account as the growth as well. And so one thing that we've realized is that people just don't know that this exists, do they, Dennis?
That's right. And I want to tell you, Aaron, one of these days I ought to write a short little book on people who I've met at one of your events in Indianapolis and who have said, you know what? They'll pull me aside. You know what? I don't want to buy a house with Alpine because they, might make a profit on this on house too. And I want to shake my head and say, no. That's a good thing, because you get to work with their experience. I mean, yes, there is a margin in there, but what you are paying for their experience is nothing compared to what it's worth. And I have exactly two people that I just dealt with in the last 2 days that are people who I thought about you because I met them both in Indianapolis. They both had that same reaction. One purchased a house somewhere else on their own because, boy, I know what to do. I don't know, and ended up with eviction problems, with plumbing problems, all kinds of problems. The place was in another city. They just weren't capable of handling it, and they sold that property. That wasn't the one that I wanted to focus on. What I wanted to focus on was a woman who said, it was a female who was just hell bent. She had taken classes in real estate, and I don't want to, use somebody else like Aaron. He's going to make money on these properties. I'm going to do it myself. And she, fine, okay, goodbye. We don't sell investments. Whatever makes you happy. And we heard from her a few months later, and she had found a property that she wanted to buy. I swear this is true, in Guatemala. Now, the person has never been to Guatemala, has never, ever, this is a ground up construction. She's never built a house, has no idea what she's getting herself into. It's a local contractor in Guatemala who's been telling her, don't worry, we'll take care of everything. And boy, did he. And she was sending money piecemeal out of the account. That was how we were so familiar with what was going on, because checks kept going out and going out and going out. And she called me one day, angry. Do you know how much it costs? He's overcharging me for everything. And so I told him I want a list of what items he needs, and I'm going to take care of it. And I said, okay. And the woman went to Home Depot and bought what this guy's had on the list. And I get a call 2 weeks later from her, angry as hell. Do you know how much it costs to FedEx a toilet to Guatemala? So I can tell you the reason that I'm involved with this again. The property is completed, way over budget.
Yeah.
The Guatemala will not register it the way we want it registered, which is IRA Club for benefit of her name, account number. They will just register the name of IRA Club, and they're convinced that IRA is my name and it's IRA. And so we are now dealing with an attorney in Guatemala to try and straighten out the titling. All this for saying, gee, I don't want Aaron to make a few dollars.
Yeah, it's the tail wagging the dog for sure.
Yeah.
Fred, 10 years ago, you probably had never heard of a self-directed IRA. You were defending our freedom out on the front lines, but you've since you've set up Roths. Your kids have Roths. You have self-directed. You're doing deals. Can you talk a little bit about the educational and personal journey from your perspective? Because this is all comparatively new for you.
Yeah, it's super new for me, and that's the reason why I was excited to put this together with you and Dennis, being somebody that walked out of the Army after 30 years in uniform, 25 of those on active duty, and did what I thought everybody was supposed to do, right? You set up the monthly allotment to your IRA, you buy mutual funds, and and then you come out the other end, and then you expect that the growth chart that somebody showed you when you were a young person worked out. Well, as you said, if I went back and added up all my contributions, that's probably exactly what I took out after 25 years of putting into an IRA. Unfortunately, I met you and Dennis and was able to move that, those funds and then some other 401k money into a self-directed IRA and buy, several, buy a house, another house, as the rent comes in, additional houses, do some flips with that money, and then, buy another house. So yeah, I've been super happy. And that's why, I feel like, a disciple, right? You got to go out and spread the good news. Self-directed IRAs and rental property. Once you figure it out, because I feel like, nobody I knew in the Army was doing this, and nobody I knew personally in any other capacity was doing this. And once I found out about it, it just revolutionizes the way you invest. And yeah, we were all chatting before this, my 15-month-old son has a Roth IRA, and my 3-month-old daughter, twin daughters, will soon have their own accounts as well, so we can invest together. And that's probably something, Dennis, you might want to address is partnering, right? So if you don't have enough money in your self-directed IRA, putting it together with your spouse's money or a partner or whatever, that's or your children, just becomes a very flexible way to invest, to get cash flow and to avoid taxes, because that's the killer. So yeah, it's been great.
Thanks for bringing that up. It's very, very common that I hear it all the time. A person finds a deal that he wants to do. It's going to cost him, let's say, $80,000 for the property. He's got a $40,000 for rehab. So he's got a $120,000 project, and he wants to do it with his IRA because he doesn't want to pay income tax. That's a good idea. He looks at the IRA and there's only $90,000 there. So he can't do the $120,000 project. And he becomes frustrated and he just ends up walking away from the deal. The reality is there's no need for your IRA to ever walk away from a deal because IRAs can partner. So you sit down with your buddy and you're telling him this wonderful opportunity that you're going to lose because your IRA doesn't have enough cash to do it. And your friend says to you, wait a minute, I have an IRA. Can my IRA and your IRA partner in the transaction? And they can. Matter of fact, your IRA and him as an individual or her as an individual can partner. You and your spouse can partner. You and really any entity or person can partner to make a deal, to make the transaction work. And so, yes, you don't have 100% of the transaction, but if you walked away, you would have had 0% of the transaction. The idea is to keep your IRA money busy and earning, and IRAs can partner to do it.
Yeah, so I've drawn here on the screen. You could regularly we'll have a husband and a wife each have money in their IRA. Now, keep in mind, if you like your money in the market, we're not suggesting you take everything out of the market and put it in real estate. Mm-hmm. That's why we broke down the model, the Yale model for you. But we'll get a husband and a wife who will each buy 50% of a house. Or they won't buy them, their IRAs will, and their IRAs will each go on title. And then every month, my management company will split the rent checks and based on the percentage of ownership, 60-40, 50-50, whatever that may be. We'll get an investor who will buy maybe you only have $10,000 in your IRA or $5,000. Well, imagine just putting $10,000 of that into a $100,000 deal and then funding in the rest out of your own funds that are non-retirement money, the other 90%, and then every month we'll send 10% of the rent to your IRA, and then you can get 90% of the rent, so you can partner with yourself.
Yep.
And the third scenario that I use all the time is my IRA will often partner with my kids' IRA. And that's been a way that my kids have Roth IRAs, and that's been a great way for a small IRA to build up over time, both from the rents and from buying and selling the deals. So partnering, like Fred mentioned, Fred and his kids are partnered on deals, and Fred and his spouse are partnered on deals, and partnering for rentals, partnering for flips, partnering for loans. Those are all great ways to take a small account and to grow it up, isn't it, Dennis?
100%. And the thing about IRAs is, I don't know if you're listening to this, what size your IRA is. Maybe you have a small IRA, maybe you have a medium or a large IRA. When I started in this business 12 years ago, the $1 million IRA was quite rare. We probably had, the industry probably had maybe, a couple thousand people who had IRAs over $1 million. Today, the $1 million IRA, I don't want to say is commonplace, but boy, oh boy, we don't get surprised when we see them anymore. There are $1 million IRAs all over the place. Why? Because they made decent investments along the way, and they generally were fairly conservative. It wasn't the shoot the moon type of guy. There are a couple, I know of two, multi-billion-dollar IRAs, and they're both Roth, and one of the people who owns one of them, I've had dinner with a couple of times. I don't want to say we're great friends or anything. We've had dinner a couple of times, and he's obviously a very, very, very intelligent investor. But there's no limit on the size these can grow to. You can grow them to $1 million, to 10 million, to 100 million, and like I say, there are a couple of $1 billion IRAs out there now.
Dennis, if somebody say somebody has $400,000 in a 401k from a previous job, and they like this idea of taking $100,000 of it and putting it in real estate, but they want to leave the rest of it alone in the market. what does the IRA Club charge to set up that self-directed IRA and oversee them transferring $100,000 in there?
The transfer, the setup and transfer fee and all that stuff to get going tomorrow morning is $195. So the 195, and I tell people all the time, I know it's $195, and some people don't want to pay it. And I want to say, you can do that, we'll pay us $195, or you can pay tens and tens of thousands of income tax when you sell the property.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, I find that people are usually surprised at how cheap it is to set it up, because in that 195 setup fee is also the first year's annual fee, correct?
Annual fee, yeah.
Because then if they were just to keep it in cash the next year, you only charge annual fee of $135, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, and what a lot of people don't realize is if you were to keep that same $100,000 at Fidelity, let's say they're charging you 1.5% a year, that's going to cost you $1,500 to keep it in cash. And so, one of the things I explain to investors is that going from a managed portfolio like Fidelity to self-directed, you're going from thousands of dollars in fees to hundreds of dollars in fees. And a lot of my clients will see a 90% reduction in what's going out, and almost immediately.
Yeah, that's very common. Yeah.
Now, I want to talk for a second about why there has never been a better time to get into real estate, and then I want to break down a package because we have a $99 package for you today. Dennis will include in that a free setup for your first free IRA. And me personally, I would advise it if you don't have a Roth, that you set up a Roth IRA for this package. We have a really great $99 offer for you today. It includes a copy of Dennis's book, a video training series, a free IRA. So there's a lot of really good things. I want you to make sure you stick around to the end. You're not going to want to miss this opportunity. And we're going to give you Fred's email so that Fred can get it going for you. But
let me pitch the book, Aaron.
Yeah.
The book is called How to Make Money During the Biden Era. And so what we did was we talked about some tax changes that we're going to see during Biden, and then give you a bunch of ideas of how to make money with an IRA, Roth or traditional, during the Biden era. I started writing this book, Aaron, back in September, and I got so lucky because there was some guy named Biden who got elected. What a luck out that was.
What book are you writing about horse racing so that I can go bet on those horses?
That would be great if I could do.
So since I was just mentioned, I actually just put it on the screen. Today, it's $99. You're going to get what they call the investor's kit. This is a $1,000 value. If you're interested in that, email Fred directly at alpinecs.com. Just let him know that you would like to get the IRA Club Investors Kit for $99, and he'll point you in the right direction to get that set up. It includes a video.
Let me pitch the kit for 2 seconds. Also,
yeah.
The kit has a ton of information about IRAs. Everything from what is a self-directed IRA. We talk about we call it short-term rentals, which you call Airbnbs, but we call it short-term rentals. And we talk about some do's and don'ts in there. So because there's a lot of do's and there's a lot of don'ts. If you know the do's and don'ts before you start, it increases your probability of profit greatly. We even have video in there called How to Get a Free House from a Roth IRA. It is a fun video. The video is short, but we've had people get free houses from their Roth. And there's a video in there on that. So lots of videos that give you lots of information that you just don't get everywhere else.
Now, this investor's kit is actually on the iraclub.org website for $195, but we're going to give it to you today for $75. You have to email Fred to take advantage of the offer. And you can see right here on their Dennis's website, it's $195. So we're offering it for half off today because you've joined us here on this live stream. And they break down in detail. So you get this video series, IRA Club Introduction, what is a self-directed IRA, Roth IRA, partnering, what we just mentioned, a whole host of videos that Dennis and his team have put together to answer all the specific questions about how do I use a self-directed IRA. Like I mentioned, it includes a free account that we're going to set up for you. That's a $175 value that you're getting for $99. a copy of the book that Dennis just mentioned, the Biden book, Making Money During the Biden Administration. You'll get that ebook. We're gonna set you up with a 15-minute Q&A consultation with someone from the IRA Club team where they can answer your questions. My suggestion would be to spend a couple hours reviewing the materials so that you have an idea of what you want to do and you have a good set of questions to ask. But certainly that can be done at any point. Oh, good. Fred just threw the link in the chat bar for access to the info on the investor toolkit. And Dennis, you mentioned on here as part of the toolkit that they get a white glove experience. Can you break down what that is?
You know, we're in an industry that this bothers me. We're in an industry where service is so important, and more companies are going to less and less service. They're trying to save money on payroll. We know that people who open a self-directed IRA haven't done it before, and there's questions that they have, and they want. It's beyond just being, satisfied that they're not making a mistake. I mean, they really can make mistakes. They can have fears, and we keep more people on staff per client than anybody else, so that we answer the phone on the second ring. That's our goal, to answer the phone by the second ring. So, and the people that are on the phone are knowledgeable. It takes 6 weeks of working here before you are allowed to answer the phone. So they're knowledgeable, can answer your question. And it's everything from, how much is in my account to, can I do this or can I do that? And they're very, very knowledgeable. And that's the experience. There's a lot of companies that will tell you that if you call them, it may be a couple of days till somebody calls you back. And that could be, Susie with a headset who doesn't have very much experience.
So a couple of good questions that I just noticed on the chat. I want to run those over to you, Dennis, for those that might be watching a recorded version of this. And I will say that if you're watching the recorded version of this, if we've emailed you a link to it, the offer is still good. You just need to email Fred at alpinecapitalsolutions.com and let him know that you'd like the $99 investor kit from the IRA Club. Andrew asked a really good question that Fred had answered, but let me throw it out there to you, Dennis. Will the self-directed IRA need to be under an LLC?
Nope. It can be, but I will tell you the vast majority are not. And the IRA is separate from you. The IRA, you and your IRA are separate. I have an IRA, and my IRA and I are separate. And the Internal Revenue Service knows we're separate, and the court knows we're separate. And the way they know it is I have a tax ID number. It's called my Social Security number. My IRA has a tax ID number, and I can tell you the tax ID number for your IRA because it happens to be the IRA Club tax ID number that we have to use. And so clearly, what happens to me happens to me. What happens to my IRA happens to my IRA. They are separate, and the answer is LLCs can be done. They're not at all necessary.
Yeah, thank you. The other question I want to throw out there, Dennis, is will the IRA Club be the custodian of the self-directed IRA?
The IRA Club will be the administrator of the IRA. We'll take care of that. All of those custodial tasks, and we'll do the administration of the account for you. And what we really do for you is not only that and the administration, but it's that answering questions, making sure you didn't make, or help you know that you didn't make a prohibited transaction. There's somebody reviewing your docs. I cannot tell you every day we get people who make an investment, and they'll send in we'll say, well, what is it? I'm buying the house at 123 Green Street, or I'm making a loan to this person, that person. And we'll say, well, of course, you're not doing that. Your IRA is doing that. And they'll send we'll say, send us the promissory note that you have from this person. And they'll say, gee, I didn't know I should get one. We'll say, yeah, let's get a promissory note, so we know he's going to pay it back. And they'll send it, they'll get that. And there'll be something wrong with it. There'll be things like they have the wrong, payor. They'll be wanting to pay the individual. Individual didn't loan them the money. The IRA did. We want the IRA's name on there, so there's no income tax on that income that comes in, et cetera, et cetera. So somebody is, reading every document that comes in.
Yeah, I can confirm that's the case as well. Well, we only have about 15 minutes left, so I want to take just 5 to 10 minutes here and give an overview, a short overview of why there has never been a better time to get into real estate, what's happening in the U.S., because maybe you're thinking about this and you're not understanding the opportunity. And I have to tell you, from my partners and I are managing $250 million worth of real estate, and we're managing over 3,000 unique properties spread out across the country. So I feel like I have a really good finger on the pulse of what's happening in real estate. You can see I have a slide on the screen of the 4 big factors of real estate. The first one is that we have a housing construction shortage. Prices have gone up, affordability has dropped. Over the last 9 years, we've seen prices go up by almost 90% across the country, and I'm sure you've seen that in where you live. 6-7 years ago, home prices were $160,000. They're now almost $100,000 higher than that. And what hasn't kept up with that is wages. Now, there's been a lot of talk about raising the minimum wage, but when you went to get a mortgage, or if you haven't gotten a mortgage yet, they run a ratio that's critical to qualifying for the loan. It's called your debt to income ratio. So they look at all of your debts, your student loans, your car loans, your credit cards, and then they look at your income, and you have to have a favorable relationship. You have to be able to afford the home and afford that mortgage payment. And if you don't have enough income to cover those debts, then you don't qualify. We've never seen as many Americans get denied for a mortgage as we have over the last 7 or 8 years because of the failure to qualify for the debt to income. So they have the down payment, they have good credit, but they don't qualify because they don't make enough money. Part of that is because student loans have gone up to unprecedented amounts over the last 20 years. But another factor is we're just not making as much money compared to how quickly property has gone up. And why has property gone up in value? Part of it's because we have a construction shortage. So when we look back to 2008, the last time the market crashed, almost 3% of the homes in America were vacant. That vacancy is non-existent now. And that high vacancy that we had in 2008 was because we were overbuilt. We literally built millions of homes more than what we needed to keep up with our current population growth and our immigration growth. And home building has been boom bust over the last 100 years. It's cyclical in nature. We're building too much, or we're not building enough. But for the last 8 years, we've been underbuilding the market severely. So we're now in a situation where we're short 3 to 4 million homes, and that's just been driving the homes that are available up. COVID has only exacerbated that. COVID has only made it more intense, and we've all heard stories about the days on market inventory dropping to just a couple of weeks in markets all across the country. And if you're an investor, or you've been thinking about getting into real estate investing, whether it's to buy a rental, to do a flip, I want to break down 5 different strategies that we're seeing right now that I think are particularly appealing. And I'll just literally type them onto the screen here. So 5 strategies for real estate investors that are hot. So one area that I see that's incredibly hot right now is mobile home. Mobile home, manufactured homes. Fred, we just flipped a mobile home, didn't we?
Yeah. It's that's another reason it's good to be here. It's good to have Aaron as a partner in a flip when you don't know what you're doing.
Well, I still don't, because we just found out about a roof leak yesterday. that has to be fixed. So mobile home, manufactured home, and modular homes have never been more hot. I mean, 10 years ago, city councils were trying to get rid of the parks, changing the zoning, and now we've been getting city councils that not only have let us keep the zoning, but they're letting us increase the density. So, we got a 15 mobile home park, and they let us increase it to 25. They're letting us take land that was zoned for commercial and repurpose it for mobile, because city councils and mayors all across America are freaking out about the shortage of homes, and especially the shortage of affordable homes. And you've seen where you live, there's not very many blue-collar, lower middle-class rentals. There's not many blue-collar, entry-level starter homes. Builders don't want to make them. They can't make as much profit on them. and it's becoming a crisis across the country. Because mobile homes and manufactured homes can be built in a matter of weeks and put into a park or put onto a foundation, it's a hot space. And so those of you that are interested in investing, that's an area that's red hot. Another area that we're crushing it right now is wholesaling. And wholesaling is the process where, let me give you an example. I got an apartment complex under contract for $1 million from the seller a few weeks ago. I turned around and sent it over to a Wall Street fund that wants to buy apartment complexes for $1.2 million. I didn't have to buy it for $1 million. I assigned the contract to them, and that Wall Street fund bought the apartment complex for $1 million, plus sent me $200,000 assignment fee. That process of wholesaling deals is hot right now because there's just nothing on the market. Nothing's on Zillow, nothing's on MLS, just lousy deals if it does make it that far. And so the ability to learn to go out and wholesale is fantastic. Commercial real estate is big. We've all seen the Olive Gardens that are empty, the movie theaters that are empty, the local Sears here in Idaho. Fred, I think they just announced this week it's going to become a school. Did you see that over at the mall?
Well, I didn't see that. I knew the Macy's and the Sears were closing. I didn't know what they were making them into.
Yeah, and so they just said they're going to repurpose it as a school. Well, before they repurposed it at the school, I guarantee you the group that owned that Sears was freaking out because they knew that there wasn't going to be another department store coming in anytime soon. So there's some phenomenal opportunities in commercial real estate, in multifamily, in retail that are out there. Airbnb is big. A lot of Airbnb owners left with COVID because we were a little bit slow last March, April, May, a lot of bit slow. And so they've all come storming back into that space. As hotels have filled back up and the country has all this pent-up demand for travel, Airbnb is going to continue to be really hot. Foreclosure. Now, there's 3 stages of foreclosure. There's pre-foreclosure, there's the auction itself at the courthouse steps, and then there's post-auction called REO. Pre-foreclosure stage itself has been red hot. Millions and millions of owners of commercial property and homeowners are in forbearance, meaning they haven't been paying their mortgage, and we've been sending them postcards, we've been sending them letters, we've been sending them texts, and we've been reaching out saying, hey, we know you have a tenant that you can't evict. We're interested in buying your property. And so when you look at these strategies, okay, the mobile and manufactured homes, wholesaling, commercial, Airbnb foreclosure, I guarantee you that if you and I sit down and have a conversation together, there's a fit for you. Imagine doing a wholesale deal inside of your 401k. Imagine owning an Airbnb in your IRA. Imagine doing a loan on a mobile home with your self-directed IRA. These are the strategies that we see our clients doing, and that, Dennis, you guys are seeing all the time, aren't you?
Of course. And again, I'm surprised, as much as we're seeing it, I'm surprised we're not seeing more because, again, because of the tax benefits with the Roth, you literally double your return.
Yeah, you really do. We're excited about this investor kit that we're offering today. Go to iraclub.org. To get more information. There's an introduction about it. There's a video, a 2-minute video that Dennis has uploaded there. Click on invest.
I was going to say, I think if they email Fred, Fred will link everything up for them.
Yeah, and in the chat bar it's linked as well. I just want to K through 12 it because I figure if I give it 3 different ways, one of them will work for somebody. And take your time and check this out. But don't pay $195. I mean, now Dennis wouldn't mind if you pay $195.
That's right.
If you want to get all of this kit for $99, then you got to email Fred. Fred at alpinecapitalsolutions.com, and he'll be happy to match you up with the team over at IRA Club. They'll give you a coupon code so that you can get it for $99. And then I would suggest you watch the videos. Pick some of the topics that are more interesting or that apply to you, watch them, then schedule a consult with someone from the team, get all your questions answered. Go talk to your financial advisor, talk to your CPA. If you work with an attorney, talk to them. If you have a financial advisor, Then go back and talk to the IRA Club team again. And they'll be happy to set up your free IRA account, and you're going to want to fund that in as well. So, an unfunded account doesn't work either. You want to put some money into it. My advice is at least $10,000. And finally, you got the Biden book that Dennis put together, Making Money During the Biden Administration. No one thinks that taxes are going to go down. No one thinks that government regulation is going to decrease. We all kind of know that when a Democrat becomes president, those things increase. We're seeing that we saw that in the debates, and we're seeing that now. And what savvy business owners do is they learn to navigate that. Looks like, Fred, we got any more questions over here? Oh, yeah, here's so Dennis.
Yeah, we do. One, it's really for Dennis, and I know the answer, but I'll let Dennis handle it. And it's from Andrew, and he was wondering if you guys, the IRA Club, ever participates as JV or equity partners with your club members. I know that to be a no, but I'll let you handle that.
Yeah, I thank you very much. It is no, because an IRA company properly run should be independent always. And so if you say, I've got this opportunity and I'll put $50,000 in, if you put $50,000 in, we just don't want to do that. Sure, we are investors, but we don't invest with our clients. We don't ever do anything that would detract from your ability to make 100% of the money.
Yeah. Now, on the real estate side, if you're looking for partnerships, if you're looking for opportunities to network with other investors, Fred can give you some information on that, because we do have some resources that we can tap you into to assist you with that. So great questions today. We appreciate the participation. Looks like there's a lot of interest in this toolkit, Dennis. There's certainly a lot of value there. Thank you for taking first of all, thank you for offering it for $99, because that was great.
And if you get the kit, there are 2 videos in the kit. I believe it's 2 videos on Roth, just on the topic of Roth. Watch those 2 videos, because there's so much more to the Roth than we talked about here. You'll wonder why you don't have one already, and why everyone doesn't have one.
Yeah, and if you received a recording and you weren't able to join us on this live event, we're more than happy to extend this offer to you. Just email Fred at Alpine Capital Solutions and let them know that you'd like a copy of the IRA Club Investor Toolkit for $99. Fred, thanks for joining us today and helping us out with this.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Dennis,
Great.
Thanks for taking the time to break this down for everyone.
Always enjoy it.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.